The city of Beirut was alive under the moonlit sky. The hum of motorcycles, the laughter of families enjoying late-night tea, and the call to prayer resonating from minarets blended into a unique symphony. For a moment, it was as if war had never touched this land. Then, the first explosion shattered the illusion. The ground trembled as a fireball erupted from a building in the southern suburbs, sending plumes of smoke into the air. Before anyone could react, another blast tore through the night, followed by the unmistakable roar of fighter jets overhead. Beirut was under attack. Deep within the city, hidden among the dense maze of apartment buildings, was Hassan al-Rahim, a high-ranking operative with ties to Hezbollah. For weeks, intelligence agencies had tracked his movements. Satellite images, intercepted calls, and human informants all pointed to one conclusion. Al-Rahim was planning something big, something that threatened Israel's security. Inside a dimly lit apartment, Al-Rahim and his men huddled around a laptop screen, discussing encrypted messages from their allies. He exhaled slowly, sipping his tea. He had evaded death many times before, but tonight, death was coming for him. Hundreds of miles away, in a secure bunker beneath Tel Aviv, Israeli Air Force Colonel Daniel Regev monitored the live drone feed. A blinking red dot indicated the target's location. "Confirm target?" the pilot asked over the radio. Regev leaned forward, studying the infrared silhouettes moving inside the building. Intelligence confirmed Al-Rahim's presence. There was no time for hesitation. "Green light," he ordered. Seconds later, an F-35 fighter jet, flying at supersonic speeds, released its payload. A laser-guided missile streaked through the night, striking the building with pinpoint accuracy. The blast sent shockwaves through the city. The target was neutralized, but collateral damage was inevitable. Hanan Darwish had been sitting in her small apartment, reading bedtime stories to her son, when the blast blew out her windows. Glass shards tore through the room as she shielded the boy with her body. When the dust settled, she could hear the screams of her neighbors. The street below was in chaos. Flames engulfed nearby buildings, and sirens wailed in the distance. "Ya Allah," she whispered, cradling her son, who trembled in her arms. Outside, men pulled survivors from the rubble. Some cried out for lost loved ones, while others stood in stunned silence, watching the carnage unfold. Within minutes, news agencies broadcast the images worldwide. International condemnation followed swiftly, with calls for restraint and an immediate ceasefire. But in the shadowy world of espionage and warfare, words meant little. In a fortified command center in southern Lebanon, a Hezbollah commander slammed his fist onto the table. "They killed our brother. We respond now." Within an hour, multiple Katyusha rockets launched from hidden sites along the Lebanese border, streaking toward northern Israeli towns. Air raid sirens blared in Tel Aviv, sending civilians rushing to bomb shelters. The Iron Dome missile defense system intercepted most of the incoming projectiles, but one struck a residential area, injuring several people. The war drums had started beating again. International leaders scrambled to contain the situation. The United Nations called for emergency talks. The U.S. issued statements urging de-escalation. Meanwhile, backroom negotiations between intelligence agencies unfolded in European capitals, where diplomats sought to broker an uneasy peace. But war does not wait for diplomacy. In the following days, Israel launched precision airstrikes targeting Hezbollah's supply routes. In response, Hezbollah deployed its drone units to strike military outposts. The battle raged in a deadly cycle of attack and counterattack. Meanwhile, civilians bore the brunt of the devastation. Families fled their homes. Hospitals overflowed with the wounded. The once bustling streets of Beirut became ghostly echoes of a city under siege. Amira Suleiman, an investigative journalist, had spent years covering conflict zones. With her camera and notebook in hand, she ventured into the heart of the destruction, determined to show the world the human cost of war. Standing amidst the ruins of a bombed-out school, she turned to her cameraman. "The world sees numbers, statistics, but these are people, families, children. Someone must tell their story." Her reports went viral, forcing international leaders to confront the realities of the escalating war. Protests erupted worldwide, with demonstrators demanding an end to the violence. But the machinery of war is not easily stopped. As diplomatic efforts intensified, back-channel communications between Israeli and Hezbollah intermediaries hinted at a possible ceasefire. However, a final devastating attack threatened to derail negotiations. A suicide bombing in Tel Aviv, attributed to an extremist faction, reignited hostilities. The Israeli government vowed retribution. Hezbollah mobilized its elite units. The world braced for full-scale war. At the last moment, a breakthrough. Behind closed doors, under the mediation of international forces, a fragile agreement was reached. A ceasefire was declared, though both sides remained wary. The scars of war would not heal overnight. In Beirut, Hanan Darwish stood amidst the rubble of her home, clutching her son's hand. He looked up at her with innocent eyes, unaware of the forces that had shaped his world. In Tel Aviv, Colonel Regev stared at his reflection in the glass of his office. Victory had no taste. The cycle would continue unless something changed. And in a dimly lit newsroom, Amira Suleiman typed her final words for the night. Wars are not fought by soldiers alone. They are waged on the hearts and minds of those who live through them. And in the end, no one truly wins. Amid the echoes of war, another battle raged beneath Beirut's surface. A war of crime, corruption, and survival. The chaos provided fertile ground for illicit activities, and crime lords thrived in the shadows. From human trafficking rings to arms smuggling, organized crime had embedded itself in the fabric of the city. War provided the perfect cover. Young men, desperate for money, were recruited into street gangs. Women and children, displaced by the bombings, became easy prey for traffickers. Nabil Haddad, a former intelligence officer turned black market kingpin, ran one of the city's most notorious underground networks. From his base in the crumbling docks, he smuggled weapons, drugs, and even people across the Mediterranean. The war had made him rich. Local law enforcement, stretched thin by the ongoing conflict, struggled to contain the rising tide of crime. Corrupt officials turned a blind eye for the right price, allowing criminals like Haddad to operate with near impunity. For the people of Beirut, war wasn't just about bombs and airstrikes. It was about the daily fight for survival in a city overrun by darkness. The Lebanese government found itself in an impossible position. War had drained its resources, and political corruption had weakened its ability to govern effectively. Beirut, already suffering from infrastructure collapse, now battled a growing crime epidemic. Law enforcement agencies were severely understaffed and underfunded. Criminal organizations flourished, filling the power vacuum left by a failing state. Armed militias, drug cartels, and human trafficking rings took control of entire districts. The government's efforts to rein in crime were met with resistance, both from within and outside its ranks. The justice system was equally compromised. Judges faced intimidation or bribes, making convictions nearly impossible. Political leaders bickered over power while ignoring the suffering of their citizens. The war had not only destroyed buildings but also dismantled the very institutions meant to uphold law and order. For the people of Beirut, survival was a daily battle. Between airstrikes, criminal enterprises, and political instability, they had little hope for a brighter future. And yet, in the heart of darkness, they held on, waiting for the day when peace, real peace, might finally return to their city.